Kunzite, why have you not bought me the legendary silver crystal?
Hi, this is Rick from Daddy's Game Time, and I'm here with
Cindy Robinson.
We're very excited to have this opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you.
So a couple questions we'd like to ask you, but before we do, just kind of want to give you a little bit of a background as far as what we're doing here. Mm-hmm. Daddy's Game Time is more of a family-oriented kind of show. Mm-hmm. So we specifically target families, but more towards the fathers, the dads.
Okay.
We like to put into that aspect of what we as fathers like to do, as opposed to sometimes we can't do.
Right.
So that's where I think the show kind of generally falls under. And with you being here, it comes into one of the categories that we like: anime, a lot of shows, a lot of video games that we like to play, of course. And meeting you and speaking to you is kind of one of those treats for us and our audience. So what I'd like to ask you first of all is, how did you get into the voice acting?
I was in musical theater and on Broadway for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I was doing a show called Peter Pan, and I got really injured in it. And so it started to become like difficult to do 8 shows a week because it's a pretty grueling schedule. And I moved to Los Angeles, and I met a writer, and he was adapting an anime, and I'd never heard of this before. You know, I was like, well, what's that? And so I went in and auditioned for it, and I ended up booking it. And that one job led to me meeting, you know, systematically everybody, that kept it going.
That's awesome. So kind of one of those one door closes, another opens.
Absolutely.
Kind of
it actually turned out to be, I mean, that injury turned out to be probably the best thing that ever happened to me.
If you had the opportunity, would you want to try to return back to the stage acting?
The only reason why I would do that is if there were a project that I was just
really into, that wanted to be part of.
Yeah, because this is a way better life. Mm-hmm. You know. What
difficulty-wise? I've heard of people, other voice actors. We've seen documentaries and read articles that they've stated that voice acting is sometimes harder than real acting. I think they kind of put it in a way that physically you're there, you're in that scenario kind of. Whereas voice acting, maybe you're just given a script, an idea of this is what you need to sound like. Is that true? Do you feel that that's a very difficult task?
I think voice acting is a very difficult task because you don't have the physicality. Mm-hmm. You only have your voice. Mm-hmm. So you have to get that point across, and you have to be an actor. With a lot of people on camera, their physicality does a lot of the acting for them. And so the acting doesn't matter. You can't get away with that in voice acting. Yeah. The other thing that you have to be is versatile. I mean, I'm gonna go back on that a little bit. Sure. There are actors that only do one thing and that do it really well, and so that's how they make their living. But for most of the voice actors, it's about how many roles can you play.
You got to adapt to the.
You do, and because it's not all the same. It's not the same gig every day.
Right. So what would be, if you don't mind me asking, an example, a scenario of like a day-to-day kind of job, I guess. If you were asked to come in to do a specific voice, how much time do you give or are given? Do they tell you to do X amount of different tones, the exact same phrase? What kind of...
You're given a script. You walk in and you're given a script. Now, by the way, I'm just going to focus on anime right now. Because it's different for every aspect.
Exactly.
You're given a script. It's all time coded. You put on your cans and you stand in front of the mic, and then you watch a TV screen, and there's a thing called beep. So it goes beep, 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 and on the 4th beep is your cue to start talking. So you have to match the lip flaps that are up on the screen and make the character seem as though the words are coming out of their mouth.
So you basically have to fit that.
You have to fit the line that you are given into the space for the animation. So there are different voices, there are different characters. I do a lot of utility work. So I do, I'll do little boys in one scene and then a little girl at the other part of it. And then, and then I might do some like some warrior chick
More
or some.
intense and
Yeah, I do a lot of evil. I do a lot of villains.
is that your preference? You like to do a lot of the stronger characters?
I do, and I sound very aggressive, so that's naturally what they're going to look at me at for. Evil, sultry, kind of tough. I do a lot of tough.
So does that reflect in any way your character personally, who you are? Does that come out on what you want to do, or is this just something that you fell into and you like those characters now?
I think it's what I do well, and I think that's what my voice matches the best. Absolutely. I love playing tough characters. I love playing strong women. I love playing evil.
Yeah.
You know, it just, they're more interesting characters.
Yeah, it gives you something a little bit different to do than the day-to-day just random, I guess, goody two-shoes kind of role. And
right. Because most of those roles, there are exceptions, of course, to everything, but most of those roles aren't really layered, you know?
Yeah, so maybe just a quick, just simple, plain role, nothing too exciting about it, I think is what you mean?
Well, just... it doesn't give you the emotional depth.
Right.
Because the challenge for me is to find a villain and make them human and make us really actually like that person. Because the best thing about a villain is that they think they're doing the right thing.
Right.
They have their reasons other than just, wahaha.
Yeah.
Because that's not interesting.
Right.
That's predictable.
And you got to convince the audience.
Yeah.
That character is.
You got to say, why would you root for me?
Right.
Why would you root for the bad guy?
And I think in most anime specifically, that bad guy is what really ties the whole series, the whole animation down, because as kooky or funny as a main character might be, just that evil person, I think a lot of people kind of try to relate more towards their dark aspect, maybe kind of root for the bad guy for a little bit, even though they know he's a bad guy, but just because that character is just so well made, a lot of people go for that.
And it makes the story happen a lot. It drives the story quite a bit.
Yeah, it makes it a lot more interesting, that's for sure. Well, as far as voice acting, animation, and video game, what would be the more, on a scale of difficulty, I guess, what would be more difficult? What's more involved?
Dubbing is a harder skill because you have to, I'm musical, so it kind of came to me naturally, but when you see the rhythm of the lip flap, it's a harder skill. But the rest of them, it actually just depends on the character that you're doing, because I've been in brutal video game sessions that were really tough, and I've also been in really brutal animation sessions where they're trying to find a character. You get to bring your unique quality to something, but there are sounds that we've already heard. So how do we make this little boy sound different? What are his quirks? What are his personality traits? And that's my job. So it depends on the character. It depends on the project. There's really no one is harder than the other. Just that there's more technical skill involved with dubbing than with the other two. You
just got to give it a little bit more flavor to make it a little bit different than all the rest. To stand
you got to stand out.
Yeah.
You got to get the role.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. I had a question that was going to follow up with that, but I'm sorry.
Okay, it's all right. I do it all the time.
I was going to ask, for anyone just in general, anyone that's looking or thinking about possibly following kind of this as a career, what kind of advice would you offer to the viewers? Where to start? Any kind of lessons?
Acting classes. Start there. And then if you live in one of the major markets, there are generally voiceover classes that you can take so that you can learn mic technique. Also, I would imagine there are some I don't know this for a fact, but the YouTube, how-tos on everything else, there may be some videos out there.
True.
But acting class is where it all starts.
Yeah.
If you're not a good actor, you might work.
Start from somewhere.
Yeah, you might work, but you're not going to work as much as you would if you were good.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, thank you for that advice. Once again, my name is Rick, and we're daddysgametime.com. For any of your viewers, Cindy Robinson, we appreciate the time, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick.
For giving us a little bit of a time here.
You got it.